Hello, everybody. I'm Mikey.
And I'm Corey.
Every week we discuss and review a new book, movie, album, TV show, or honestly any piece of art or culture that ourselves and you guys choose. This is Mind Control. So there was these people who were being kidnapped and mind controlled.
Exactly, dude. And I can totally see how that happened. Because, imagine if you were just given acid or just drugs like that are so disorienting for hours and hours on end and never being able to come down and not feeling safe and having somebody tell you things and accuse you of things, you know? Yeah.
Mind control. That's how we do it, baby. GG's. Mind control.
On this week's episode of Mind Control, we are going to be discussing the 2018 Ari Aster film, Hereditary. Hereditary tells the story of Annie Graham, played by Toni Collette, a woman reeling from multiple deaths in her household, beginning with her mysterious mother, Leigh, and the death of her daughter, Charlie, played by Millie Shapiro. This sets Annie down a path that begins to erode her relationships with both her son, Peter, played by Alex Wolff, and her husband, Steve, played by Gabriel Byrne. The grief eating away at Annie leads her to indulge in a seance with a sinister older woman named Joan, played by Ann Dowd. This inevitably tears apart the Graham family from the inside. Hereditary was filmed in Salt Lake City, Utah, and was released on June 8, 2018 in the US. It opened to a very positive critical response. However, some audiences reportedly walked out of the theater after witnessing the infamous beheading that takes place. The movie was directed by Ari Aster, who is known for his short films There's Something Strange About the Johnsons, as well as Munchausen. He followed up Hereditary with his second feature-length film, Midsommar. Ari Aster's films tend to deal with extreme family trauma and how it can tear us apart from the inside. Ari's use of horror to convey these ideas lends to a terrifying experience. This is Hereditary.
Recording, and we're off.
What's up, everybody? I'm Corey.
And I'm Mikey.
And today, do you want to do that over?
Yeah, let's do it over. I had to meet this.
All right. Nah.
There we go. Okay. Go ahead, yeah.
What's up, everybody? I'm Corey.
And I'm Mikey.
And I don't know why that made me laugh. All right, and welcome to Mind Control.
Let's do it again. Let's do it again.
Yeah. We should do it. Right.
That is like the corniest shit. I don't know why we're forcing ourselves to stick with this. I'm Mikey. I'm Corey thing. Should we even do that?
Nah, maybe not. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mind Control. Yeah.
I like going back and forth. I like something like that, but our names are just corny little kid names, so it sounds corny.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we have shitty names.
Yeah,
dude.
we do.
We need names like Brock.
We should use Nicholas and Thomas.
Those are stronger names.
Those are fucking beautiful.
But then we'd have to change it to MC&T, or some shit.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's true. I think maybe we should just keep the intro like that and just go from here. Just leave all that in.
Fuck it, I'm down.
Yeah, fucking go ahead.
Yeah, next time we won't do any of it.
Yeah, sorry.
All right,
guys.
what's up, everybody? Welcome to Mind Control. Today we're going to be doing the 2018 Ari Aster film Hereditary. Yeah, man, I've seen this movie a while ago. I didn't see it when it came out in theaters. I remember reading a lot about it because there's a lot of hype, especially because there were people walking out of the theater because of the scene that we'll get into. That's, it's pretty early on, like 30, 40 minutes into the movie. And so there was a lot of hype over it. And I heard it was a really good scary movie. So I finally checked it out. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see it in the theaters, which I wish I would have. But dude, I remember the first time seeing it, especially that first scene, because I really didn't know what the scene was or what it was about. I honestly, from seeing the previews, I thought it had something to do with the little dollhouses she was making. So it was going to be I don't know what I thought it was going to be. Something more with the actual houses she was making. So when that scene happened with Charlie and the daughter gets her head popped off, the first time I watched it, dude, I swear, that's why I like this movie, though. I really like it, not for the horror aspect, although the ending does get scary and crazy. Mm-hmm. I like it because of the intense, just how realistic it is, dude. That scene alone, when he drives home after killing her and just goes to bed, it's so hard to watch because I felt like this is honestly one of the most realistic portrayals you could have done, because how does somebody go into, you and me went into the house and told our parents we flipped the car, but ain't no way I'm going to be like, hey, we knocked Daniel's head off on the pole back there. You know what I mean? So it just felt so real. You're so in shock that it's it's better to just go to sleep. So, dude, I'm digressing into something we'll talk about later, but no, I really like the movie. I think it's great. I like how it deals with the family shit. I like the scariness of it. I love Toni Collette. She's, I think, the best part. That her fucking scenes where she gets crazy and says things were more powerful than that whole ending alone to me, you know? Like that dinner scene is more powerful than the ending scene when everything's going crazy, you know?
Yeah, it legit felt like one of the best performances possibly of all time. Like
especially for horror, you know?
Yeah, for horror,
like
for
it
sure.
was amazing.
Horror.
Yeah. What did you think of the movie?
I fucking loved it, dude. I really did. I fucking remember I got really drunk both times I watched it. So it was like, especially in the first time, I was like super stoned too. And we were out in the living room and we had the volume all the way up. And it was a moment. It was an experience. And,
did you watch it alone?
Well, me and Monica did.
Okay.
And it was funny. Basically, a good way to summarize what she thought of it is she said, what did she say? Corey, what the fuck? Or something like that. Like there was some part, she's like, because I told her that you were the one who wanted to do it. She's like, Corey, what the fuck? So, no, but I fucking love the movie, dude. It was super, super well written, super well acted by both, you know, the mother and the son.
Yeah, the son's good too.
You know, there's a lot of great acting in this movie. And I remember hearing a little bit about it, but it's kind of one of those things you hear about, but you don't like, I don't know, get into, or you never really like, I don't have the opportunity to check it out, but I fucking am glad I did. And it was definitely like one of those movies that make you like think about it for a few days after. Like I fucking was just like so like just mind fucked a lot by mostly, honestly, I kept just a lot of the voices and the way that the scary aspects, the horror aspects of it were kind of the things that kind of stuck with me a little bit more. So I guess because it was fucking terrifying. Like the sound she made when like the fucking when Pet or what is his name, the fucking demon was like inside of her for a second. She started doing this gurgling. Yeah, him.
Oh, when they do the seance at the table, and she's like,
dude, that's Exorcist shit, bro. That was like that really reminded me of like, and it's a wild. Obviously, you know, for people who are listening to the podcast, we're doing, you've heard already that we're doing The Exorcist next week. And that kind of just randomly popped in my mind. It's like always been one of my classic, like favorite horror movies of all time. But I just kind of chose it. I'm like, oh, this would be a good, you know, horror movie, Halloween movie to do. And then as I researched Hereditary more, I started seeing all these comparisons of The Exorcist and Hereditary. And saying, but I guess it was a very popular thing. People were saying Hereditary is the scariest movie since The Exorcist.
Yeah, I saw that a lot. Yeah, they were saying it's like one of the scariest ever. Which I mean, it does get pretty crazy at the end. You know, like, and it's kind of unexpected. I guess the first time you see it, you know, like you see that it's coming, but it all comes at once. You know, like because I read that too. That's actually what he said too. That like the movie is supposed to be that way. The first half of the film is very family oriented and more drama, and the last half was horror. Because he actually talks a lot about how after he made the movie you just watched, the Strange Things About the Johnsons, which we'll get into, after he made that that it was really hard, like he got a lot of attention, but it was hard to get a movie actually off the ground. And he said he said he decided to start. That's why he likes to do the horror too, because he's like, so he said, I actually have it written down right here. He said that it's actually on the last page. He said what serves as a deterrent for an audience in one genre suddenly becomes a virtue in another. So he's like, you know, if I had a drama with this crazy shit, like on one level, yeah, maybe it's a great film, but people might not be interested. It might be too much for people. But if you mask it under horror, all of a sudden you have these horror enthusiasts who will like it because they're looking for a movie with that crazy in it, you know? And he can do, that's why he said he likes to use that genre, because you could work within both and you can still add like a really heavy themes that would be explored in a drama, but now you can do more with it because you're in horror and people are expecting it to be fucking hard to watch, you know? People are expecting something crazy, you know? Because if you go into a drama, like I think I told you about Revolutionary Road, the one with Leo and Kate Winslet, and it's like just like so realistic that it's like it's a good movie, but it's not something I'd watch because it's just too realistic, you know?
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
think the horror balances that out, you know? Because
Mhm.
if the movie would have, after her head got popped off, if it would have been just a normal movie about how they dealt with it, it would have been like almost too depressing, you know?
That's true.
But then they balanced it out with that fucking, oh shit, like demons and Paimon and all that shit, dude. And like, dude, when that chick is screaming at him across the street, satiny.
Oh, yeah.
They
Yeah.
had the dude, and it's crazy fucking movie, man.
Yeah,
I'm
it
glad
was-
you liked it though.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I mean, like more than interesting, one of the best like movies I've seen all year. And,
Hey, good,
yeah,
dude. I know
for
it
sure.
sticks with you. That's
Mhm.
why I picked it too. Because after the first time I saw it, I always knew like I'm definitely gonna watch this shit a couple more times, you know.
Yep.
And it's a good one. But we're gonna, you want to get into the synopsis right
Yeah,
now? We'll go
for
through
sure.
the movie.
Hell yeah.
All right, and then at the end, I'm gonna go through like shit that was in the movie that may have been missed and shit. So right now we'll go straight through. Stop me if there's anything you want to say, or I'll stop if I. So the story begins with the viewer looking out from a window in a workshop to a tree house, then turning and zooming into a bedroom in a dollhouse that is in the workshop. Steve Graham wakes his teenage son Peter and 13-year-old daughter Charlie for their 78-year-old grandmother Ellen Taper Lee's funeral. Steve finds Charlie sleeping in the treehouse. Steve's wife Annie, an artist who sculpts miniature dioramas, delivers the eulogy at her mother's service. Charlie makes a clucking noise while drawing a strange sketch during the speech. And for those who don't know, the noise sounds like this. Oh, you do it better, bro. Which is, but yeah, okay. So Charlie is seen making that, which is very important for
Yeah.
the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in the beginning, it's so cool. I just want to note that it's super dope. It's such a dope. I love the first shots of movies are like always super interesting to me. And like how in The Wizard of Oz, it's, you know, Dorothy running away. The first shot of this is like this long zoom in of this dollhouse, and then the dollhouse becomes an actual shot. So that in and of itself is super dope, and I'd love to know how they did that or how it all worked. But yeah, that's just super.
Yes. Well, in the I could say it here, it is in the intro too, but Steve Newbern is actually the guy. He's based out of California that did all the I mean, I think he has a team, but he's the one who did all the model work. I actually read an article by him, and it's pretty interesting, you know, because he said that like, so they contracted him to make dioramas, and they wanted him to make some that were exactly like the house, like you said, where it was cool, where you zoomed in and it was an exact replica of what we were seeing in real time. And then he said he also, if you look at the movie, there's some dioramas. There's one that you barely catch. Like there's one that has the windows all chained up and like boarded and shit like that. And he said there were things that he had to make that weren't in the movie that they wanted. Like, and that's what Ari Aster actually said too, was helping to give you the exposition, because I don't know if you remember, they show a diorama of the grandma looking at the mom as she's breastfeeding Charlie.
Yeah.
And we don't ever see this, but it's like supposed to be just like showing us, you know, from the beginning. And there's also the one where the grandma's actually staring at the parents as they're sleeping, and she's standing in the doorway, and it's very similar to what Toni Collette, Annie does to her own son.
Isn't she in the diorama of the grandma trying to go to the daughter who's nursing or whatever? Isn't she trying to nurse the baby with her own milk?
So they actually say that she did breastfeed.
Yeah, she says it and she says she never wanted to let me feed you. She always wanted to feed you.
Yeah,
right?
So I think that that's supposed to be like her kind of creeping in, like let me feed the baby. And there's also the hospice, which is where the grandma died, and there's the classroom that they show that they're just not in the movie, but they're supposed to provide this background information that they're just not giving, you know.
So we're going off on a little bit of tangent, but is it even possible for an elderly woman to just randomly breastfeed her granddaughter? It's not. You don't have milk.
I mean, I don't know, dude.
Is it devil milk?
Yeah, maybe. I don't think it's very.
It's the milk of Psalomus, or what is his name? Paimon. Psalomus.
He's one of the 9 kings of hell.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear more about that, brother.
But no, yeah, dude, that is true. I didn't ever think about that. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know much about titties. I know I like them.
That's all you need to know. And you gotta just go. There's oh, you gross.
But yeah, okay, I guess I'll keep going. But yeah, dude, but as Mikey brought up, it is really cool. I really like how they do that a couple times where they zoom in to a specific room in the diorama, and then it becomes the room we're looking at and like the actual scene. It's fucking cool.
One more thing to add: where are they, and how much are they? Because I want the one with the little head and the big light pole. I want that in my room.
Dude, I don't know, but speaking of which, it's actually something we should talk about. But there's a little documentary about this person who actually makes dioramas. I forget what her name is. I follow her on Instagram, but it's like she goes by like Tiny Lives. But dude, the dioramas she builds, they're like that. They're small, but then then you look at it closely and they depict crazy shit like murders or like a white, like they're crazy, or like there's one where like the person's split in half, but they look like really fucking cool and they're small and you could buy those. I was actually looking at those. I was like, they're pretty cool, dude. But yeah. But anyways, okay, so Charlie's making the clucking noise at the funeral, and then Annie talks to Charlie about Alan at bedtime. So this is later at night after the funeral. Oh, also worth noting, because apparently it's just not in here, which I feel like is actually pretty important, is at the funeral, Mom. Oh, you know what? We're just gonna do that all at the end. I'll just do all that shit at the end. So Annie talks to Charlie about Alan at bedtime that night. Charlie claims that her grandmother always wished Charlie were a boy. To Annie's confusion, Charlie also wonders aloud who would care for her now that Alan is dead. Annie later sees a haunting vision of Alan after looking through a memory book while in Annie's workshop, which is interesting because Alan obviously was taking care of her, because that's why she asked, who's going to take care of me now that grandma's dead. And so the next day in class, a bird dies by flying into one of Charlie's classroom windows at school. Charlie later, after class, goes outside and cuts off the bird's head. A woman across the street at the same time waves at Charlie, who we will go into later, but there are people throughout this film that are in the backgrounds in many scenes that they are noticeable, but some of them I actually didn't notice, that they're pretty much watching the whole time, watching the family, watching Charlie. So it's very important to note that. Yeah, because there's that girl who waves. I have them written down for the end, but there's a lot of like scenes where you don't notice, but those people are like in the background from the cult, because they've been watching after Charlie, because pretty much they've been watching after Charlie her whole life because they know Paimon is inside of her, Okay, so a woman across the street waves at Charlie, and then Annie begins researching apparitions. Steve receives word from the cemetery that Alan's grave was desecrated, but he decides not to tell his wife. So during this scene, the dad gets a call that's, the grandma's body has been dug up pretty much. And I believe the head was missing, if I'm correct. And, but he chooses, actually he might find that later on, but he finds out that the body was dug up, but he decides not to tell his wife because she's already kind of stressed out with everything. Annie tells Steve she's going to a movie, but actually attends a grief counseling support group. When she arrives at the meeting, it is dark outside. Annie openly discloses her mother's mental health issues, including the dissociative identity disorder and dementia. This is, I think, the part you were talking to where she brings up about the breastfeeding by the grandma. Yeah, I really like this part where she says all those things, because then she also says something really interesting also about how her brother was diagnosed with schizophrenia and later hung himself because he claimed that his mother was trying to put people inside of him, which is obviously the case, was true. The mom was probably trying to put Paimon into him before, but it didn't work. Okay, so during this meeting, she gives a lot of information. It's a really good scene. I love it. Charlie sees a strange light in her bedroom, which we later see a lot. This light is actually in a lot of part of the movies too. That's also not noticeable, that I didn't notice. Some of the scenes I actually had to look up because I didn't even know the light was in the scene. But it's almost like
almost like a UFO type fucking light.
Yeah,
it's
I think
like a weird,
like Paimon's like essence or spirit or something. Because we see the light. Well, actually, I don't know, because that is interesting, because I always took it that way because the light goes into Peter at the end. But but Charlie sees the light, and the light, at least if I'm correct, should be inside of Charlie, So I don't know exactly.
I remember, one scene where she's kind of like blinded.
because she sees it. Yeah, she sees it in her bedroom.
Yeah.
And but she has it in her. So I don't know. And then after the gallery owner, Sylvia Archer is the gallery that Annie is working for the dioramas, because she's building them. So we should have mentioned that she's building these dioramas, these miniatures that are based on her life for an art show that she's going to do, like an art piece. So they call to ask her if she's almost ready. And then Peter asks his mother if he can go to a party. So, okay, now we're getting into it. So Peter asks his mother if he can go to a party where he goes to see Bridget, which is a classmate that he's interested in. Annie asked Peter if he invited his sister to go with him, since he claimed it was a party related to their school. Which, even so, I don't know about you, I always found it weird that, that mom would even insist on Charlie to go to a party like that, especially when she's obviously a lot younger.
I think it's one of those. I think it's a kind of like an example of the mother's. Is it neuroticism? Is that the right word?
Neurosis? Yeah, it's definitely something. Yeah, because I feel like there's a reason for it. It kind of shows you like,
what does neurosis mean?
Like it's kind of like being like psychotic,
and like too not focusing like obsessive about the wrong shit,
exactly. Yeah. Okay. And she doesn't even.
She's not paying attention to the right. She doesn't understand. She's so fucking fucked up. She doesn't understand things, and she's in a way well intentioned, but she's so fucked up she can't even see the fucked up parts of her own children, and how. And if anything, maybe not even just that, but on top of that, she just maybe she's ignorantly wanting the best for her kids, when in fact she's not paying attention to what she's doing is either good or bad for her kids, if that makes sense. I don't know.
No, it does, because Charlie even tells her that she doesn't want to go to the party, and yet even though Peter says it's not a good idea, and Charlie says she doesn't want to go, like any other person would be like, oh, okay, you're both, it's a mutual, but mom still forces her to go with him, which I always wondered too, just because there are little moments in the movie where mom seems to be possessed, if that was like just predestined. Because if we get into the movie, I'm gonna get into this later too, it goes into the dioramas and shit too, that all this shit was literally from the moment the grandma died, this was all just completely planned out to the T, like that there was no other way this was gonna go another way, that this was the plan. Because I'll get into it right now, actually. So after Peter takes Charlie to the party, we find out earlier in the movie Charlie's allergic to nuts, like really allergic to nuts. So as she's at the party, Peter kind of blows her off because he wants to go smoke with the girl he likes. So he goes upstairs, and someone's making chocolate cake that has nuts in it, which is unknown to Charlie. At least I think it's unknown to Charlie. And then Charlie eats this chocolate cake, begins to have an allergic reaction. Her throat's closing up. Peter finds out, freaks out, carries his sister to the car, is trying to rush her to the hospital along this dark road, because they're in, I think they're in Utah, and it's, long stretches of nothing. So it's just dark. And then fucking, he turns his head for a brief second because he's worried about his sister, because she's really like, she puts her head out the window because she just can't breathe. And as she puts her head out the window and he looks, he swerves, doesn't hit the pole, but Charlie's head hits the pole and just goes smacked off. And also, so it's interesting though, because on that pole is Paimon's sign too. I don't know if you noticed it.
On the way to the party, they saw it, right?
Yeah. So it's etched into that pole. So that's what I mean. Like everything from her making Charlie go to the party, it almost seems like this was all just, like this was planned out from the beginning. Like I almost wonder if the mom was in on it without knowing she was in on it. Like, because she is possessed at times, where she ends up in the son's room saying crazy shit. It's like, so it's like, and like, I think this is also a bigger metaphor, like, which I think we can talk about too, is that while this does all have to do with possession by demons and all that, I think the bigger story is that it's this intense family trauma, and the way you're treated stays with you and passes on from generation to generation, Yep. And it's like the grandma was completely cold and unloving, and while the mom is trying to fix that, she still is, forever scarred from this woman, which leads her to scar her kids, which, leads to this inevitable cycle of just this it's just this family, you know, these family, and then the grief I feel like is what brings this all to a head, you know, which I think it often does, you know, because you've seen, you know, there's situations where a funeral where it should bring people together instead completely can destroy a family from the hurt and pain and everything in it. I digress. But yeah, so I mean, I think that's like a bigger metaphor, but that's why I always wondered when mom makes Charlie go to the party, was that just predetermined? Was like, you know, like no matter what, she was just gonna do that, you know, like I don't know how to describe it, but you know what I'm trying to say.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, there's so many factors to it. Like what made him swerve at that moment? What made her gasp and get out the window at that moment? You know, there's all these different things that are in control of whether she fucking smacked her face into that pole or not.
Dude, I
didn't
like
even think that she got decapitated from that. I fucking keep like.
Yeah, dude, that's why it was crazy. Like it was the decapitation, and then right after, so I'll keep going. So right after she's decapitated, her kappa was detated from her body.
Yeah, remember that?
What is that from?
The Office. He's talking about Ed Truck. He's like, his kappa was detated from his body.
Oh yeah, and Creed's like, Ed, he's drunk as a skunk.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude. Okay, so she gets decapitated, and the big brother Peter stops the car. Who wouldn't stop the car, and doesn't really. Which I actually really like the scene. I think it's done really well. Is where he doesn't really look exact. He never turns his head to look back at her. He just like briefly glances in the rearview mirror, and we don't even really see it at that time. I don't think. You just kind of see him look up and then look down. And then he starts the car, and Peter drives home because he's obviously in shock that he killed his sister right now. And instead of waking up his parents, he just, I think, is in so much shock and just doesn't know what to do. He goes in and lays down and goes to sleep. And the next morning, the mom, you can hear her. Well, Peter doesn't sleep because they show him in the morning. He's been wide awake all night. And then mom is telling the dad she's going to the store. And then she goes to take her car, which Peter had, and finds Charlie's body in the back with no head, dead on the, and you don't see her find it, but you hear the screams, and she's just such a good fucking actor that I feel like that scene is so, like, it was harder. I know they show the head shortly after that with the flies all over it, but watching him lay in that bed and hearing the mom scream was so much harder than the horror of seeing the actual head, you know?
Yeah.
Just because, like, I feel like in her scream and just like, it just put me in that situation where I mean, I hope that never ever happens to me, but it just makes me think like, fuck, dude, if I was Peter and that happened, like, no matter if it was an accident or not, I don't think you'd ever get over doing something like that, you know? And then the fact that he doesn't tell his mom and she's screaming, like, I feel like that shit is just like so intense, and like, it's just like, oh man, like, this is too much.
Yeah, sometimes I notice that a lot with a lot of movies, like in a lot of scenes and things like that. A lot of the best moments in television or in movies is like when the director chooses to make the decision to not show what's happening, and you only hear it and you only see reactions to what's happening. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's very rare that you see the exact moment. You know, like even when Ned Stark got his head cut off, you see the blade barely go through his neck, and then it just cuts away. And, you know, you see the reaction, you see the birds flying away, you see Arya's face. And there's kind of a similar thing, not even only with her reaction to finding the little girl's body, but fucking the reaction to when her head gets, her kappa's detated from her body, and the boy's acting in the scene. There's like a shot where it's like it's like his point of view, and it's like he's going to look in the mirror, and then and it cuts back, and it's that's a beautiful shot. Yeah, you said that. Okay.
When he like slightly glances. Oh mirror, but we don't see the body yet, but you know, like you know,
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just done really well, you know. And then I think the part people said they walked out on, though, was shortly after, when they actually show the head with the flies all over it, you know, because they kind of show it for not an extended period.
They show it at a good time, like it's not expected, and then it's just like you hear it as she's screaming, and it's not even. So that's another aspect to it. You're not seeing her reaction, her acting, and just finding the body, but you're seeing the aftermath of it as she's screaming. You know, that shit is fucking wild, bro. That shit is fucking terrifying.
Dude, it is. It's honestly, it's a really hard to watch scene. I remember watching it. I think we were with Frankie's parents, and I remember them too. They were like, "What the hell are we watching?" And I was like, "Dude, I know. Like, I didn't know that was coming. You know, it's just really intense. You know, and it's just done really well. That's why I like the movie. You know, for people who thought it was too intense, I was like, yeah, but for the subject matter and like for what happens, it's done pretty like artfully and well. You know, and like. Yeah, it just really, I don't know. It just has a thing about it. But yeah, so like I said, the Paimon symbol was on the thing, that too, and we'll go into later. It's actually in a lot of different places.
Necklaces
that are
and shit. Huh?
Yeah, necklaces, there's sayings, there's words that are in the house that are used for conjuring. There's a bunch of shit. So after this happens, mom finds the body, and then we see the shot of the head, which is actually pretty brutal. But after that, we see the family has a funeral for Charlie. Mom is super distraught. Peter's just doesn't know what to do. And then right after this, we see Peter back at school and smoking weed with his friends, and he actually starts to have a panic attack where he's saying he can't breathe and his throat's closing up. Exactly what happened to Charlie, which I think is our first glimpse of Paimon starting to try to take over Peter's body now. Which hasn't happened up until this point, until Charlie's died, and now Paimon's completely out of Charlie's body. So after this, he has his panic attack, and then he comes back home later. And when he comes home, his mom is just waiting in the car, grieving. And then she drives to a grief support meeting, the same one she was at earlier. And she decides to turn around in the parking lot. She's actually like, never mind, I'm not going to go in there. But before she leaves, Joan, who's played by Ann Dowd, spots Annie, and she stops her to talk. And because she was at the other meeting, and after hearing about Charlie's death, Joan confides in Annie about the loss of her own child, and they kind of have a bonding moment over this. And then Annie returns home, and Annie sleeps. Oh, this night Annie sleeps in the attic, so she decides to go sleep in the attic. Or no, in the treehouse, right? It's in the treehouse.
The treehouse, yeah.
It is this is wrong. It says the attic. But yeah, she goes to sleep in the treehouse because I remember she has those, which I really like too. I like how they have the heaters in there and they give off this red glow in the whole like treehouse.
And then later in the movie, it's like that same red glow, but it's candles, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So isn't it like kind of like a...
Yeah, I think it's kind of like, have they been up there the whole time?
Yeah, exactly. Like, has that been what she's been doing the whole fucking time?
There's also like a theory, and I guess it's in the script. I mean, I haven't looked in to prove this, that the box that Charlie's carrying around, the shoebox, that is the treehouse too, because the way it's shaped, and that inside the box is because she has the pigeon head character that she makes. Because after she cuts the pigeon head off, she makes a little doll with it. And that's I guess that's in the script. It doesn't happen in the movie. It's left out, but it is an interesting take that shoebox she's carrying around is, if you looked inside of it, is a diorama of what happens at the end with Paimon. And I'll get into more when we go to Joan's house, because there's actually something about that in Joan's house as well. So Anne sleeps in the treehouse, or Annie. I don't know why I keep saying Anne. Annie sleeps in the treehouse. And then,
my God, look at my screen.
Let me see. Oh, oh, right now, bro.
Oh my God.
So this is the scene we're talking about for everybody who's watching.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if you're watching, we're showing the exact scene where they're driving and...
Jesus Christ. All right, there we go. Yeah, okay. So yeah, that's for getting her head knocked off. Man, if only I would have timed it a little bit better, we could have been going on with it. But so after let's see, after she sleeps in the treehouse, Peter that same night actually hears, while he's sleeping, he hears Charlie's clucking noise, and then he thinks he sees her in the corner of his room. It's like a little vision. I don't know if you remember that. And then her hoodie is like in the corner, and then he hears the, sound. And then after this, Annie visits Joan at her apartment.
Is that when her head falls off?
Yes, when she's in the room and it rolls and it turns into the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I fucking kind of pissed at the synopsis that it doesn't have all this. I should have just wrote one.
No, I thought you just call them out little moments.
Yeah, and then so after this, Annie visits Joan. Okay, so Annie sees, I think, Joan in the parking lot, and then Joan tells her or no. Actually, Annie visits Joan's apartment, and then Annie, yeah, okay, so this is before. I'm sorry. Annie visits Joan at her apartment the first time just to talk. And this is where Annie tells Joan about the sleepwalking incident, which she douses Peter and Charlie and herself from head to toe in paint thinner before waking up to find herself preparing to light a match, which I thought her telling that story is fucking crazy. That she just woke up as she lit the match and they're all covered in paint thinner, and how, that she said her kids that Peter didn't get over it for a long time because she thought she was trying to kill him. And this brings me back further to that they've been trying to kill Peter from like the very beginning, like they were trying to get mom, because mom, obviously, I'm guessing mom is just possessed by the grandma,
Yeah.
Yeah. So because she's woken up, and then also later in the movie, I know it's a dream, but I think they show it where they show her staring at him, and they're both covered in paint thinner, and then she lights it, and they both set on fire. But then she wakes up.
That's right. And his crying does really well in this scene too. He has like a weird like cry voice, like oh mommy.
Yeah, and it's like real.
It's like real, yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's real. It's like ugly. Yeah, Frankie always says that about crying. She's like, you can tell if it's real when it's like they look disgusting. And I was like, yeah, when they look just so ugly and just like, and just the way he says it, yeah, it's just like helpless. Yeah. I feel bad for him, even though like
he just sounds like a pussy.
Yeah, he does, But like, I mean,
a little boy. He just sounds like a little boy. That's all.
Yeah, yeah, no, he does. Yeah, and then and then Annie explains to Joan that the relationships with her children were never the same after. Later, Steve finds Annie constructing a diorama of the scene where Charlie died.
Dude.
And she's actually making, for those of you who haven't seen it, she's making a diorama, and it's of the actual car scene, and you see Charlie's head, you see the blood, you see the pole, and the husband walks in, and he already knows that she does make things about her life. Like she made the funeral for her mother and stuff like that. But I think for Dad and for a lot of people, this is like one step too far. Like, what the hell are you doing? This is fucking weird now, Yeah. And then she tells him, I wrote it down, that she says, it's just a neutral view of the accident. And the way she says it too is like you said, you see the neuroticism, which I think has been passed down from the grandma to her. You see it come out when she says it like that. Like, who, obviously she's probably in shock too, but it's like, it's just a neutral view, of my daughter's head getting knocked off, So,
and also I actually really love the artistic aspect of that piece in general. The fact that the light pole is like really, really big, like out of dimension big. The light pole is like so big and thick that the frame has to kind of be pulled back to have the shot the right way. And in a piece of art in general, the pole, like just being tall and being significant, and it being the thing that she got her head fucking knocked off. It was like really, I just really liked that. Like that was just really cool to me. Like if you look at the shot with the pole in it, it's like the really, really big compared to everything else.
I never noticed it, like that, and that is interesting, especially because the pole has the Paimon sign on it too. It's like such a big part in the movie.
Yeah.
Because I think we see, because you said we see the Paimon sign before she even gets her head knocked off,
On the way to the party, they show it in the daytime.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Dude, I really love it though too. Like I love the dioramas. I think they add like this sense of dread. I did read one thing. I put it in the introduction, but how they were saying, and I thought it was a really interesting way to look at it, that the dioramas and all this, these miniatures she's building of everything that's happening, that it really illustrates the claustrophobia and the inevitable aspect of everything that's about to happen, because it's almost like she's constructing it, so there's no other way there's no other way it was going to come out, because it's like she's literally constructing this, and it's all almost at times, especially the first time I saw it, I almost got confused as, is this just in our head? Is this all really taking place inside of her office, and she's building this reality for us as we're watching it, Like it almost felt like a voodoo doll thing,
Oh,
like
yeah.
I mean, I know that's not what it is because of after reading and knowing more about it, but it really does give that sense because she's building these really horrific scenes and you see them on a miniature scale, and it's they're kind of beautiful on a miniature scale, you know, in a way, in a weird, I don't know.
No, I really
way
liked them. I really, it kind of like made me think like that's kind of like a fucking amazing, like if you can really depict moments in your life through art pieces and just like literally in like have an actual art piece reflecting moments of your life, like that is wild. That's really cool to have that type of talent to do. You know what I mean?
No, it is. No, yeah, I think it could be a positive thing. It's just like, like, you know, too, like in the context of the movie, we see this as like her, though, path to becoming even more neurotic, you know? Yeah. So just, I mean, how could you be the same afterwards anyways? So, so after this scene where he sees her building the diorama, we have my fucking favorite part in the whole movie is when she comes up to dinner and her and Peter have the exchange.
Oh yeah.
And dude, some of the lines I just wrote them down just brief, like dude, it just, the way she delivers it, and it just honestly it was just so hard to watch because like you feel bad for her because of everything that happened, but you also feel terrible for Peter, who is just like, you know, he even tells his mom, like, just fucking say it. Like, I know you blame me. Like, just fucking tell me you blame me. And then I like how she turns that around on him. Why? So you can be free, you know, so you can feel better. And it's like, that's such a slight. Like, I'm not even going to give you the satisfaction to tell you I blame you because that'll make you feel like you're off the hook that now you know. Like, I'd rather you feel bad. And then I love when she says that fucking face on your face. It's like, it's nothing but disdain and resentment. And then I like how she also says, I wish I could shield you from the knowledge of what you did, but I can't. Like, dude, it's like the lines are just like so biting. And then when she screams, nobody admits to anything they've done, you know? And it's just like, dude, it's so brutal. And then when he says, I think he comes back and he's like, well, she didn't want to be at that party. And then I love when the dad says like enough. And then the face she gives him before she says fine is like, it's, oh man, that face is everything.
That was first, when I first started watching the movie, when I first thought when I would see her is like, oh, that's the mom from The Sixth Sense, right? That's the first thoughts I had. But as the movie went on, probably maybe not even fucking 25% of the way into the movie, that completely was gone through my mind. And this was a new movie, and there was no connection because of how great of an actress she was. And that shows perfectly exactly in that scene where it's like, yeah, you see it in every part of her face. She speaks from her gut. She doesn't look pretty. She doesn't have makeup on to try to like make it look and get an award. She's just being savage, a savage emotion, and it's fucking beautiful to watch. And it was honestly saddening to watch, especially hearing her crying and stuff like that. Like, it was one of the I do have a few notes, and I know one of the notes I wrote were what an amazing depiction of one of the hardest, what an excellent performance of the grieving mother, possibly the most painful feeling of all. I mean, you know, there's probably you know, not much other things are more painful than the feeling of a grieving mother, and to see your baby's body lifeless with no fucking, you know, head. That's so fucking wild. And it's just like that's and to try to portray that on screen, that's got to be so fucking hard. And then again, to just try it, and then to do it, and then to do it well, amazing. She deserves a lot for this movie. But
no, dude, that scene alone, dude. I remember, I don't know if she was nominated, but people were saying like, because I was like, dude, for that scene alone, like, I mean, even not just horror, like in most, like, it's one of the best performances I've ever seen. Like you said, dude, like that dinner scene alone just is so hard to watch. That exchange between the two of them, it's just fucking crazy. Yeah, dude. So after this, do you have anything else to say about the dinner scene?
No.
Actually, you know, I do. Actually, I have one more thing. So, you know, watching it now, since I've seen it a couple of times, in my mind, tell me if you agree. I think that this dinner scene is very climactic. Like it's it's the scene you're kind of waiting for since the whole accident happens, because it's like after that, it's just build up, there's a rift in this family. And I feel like this part at the table is like the climax for the drama part of the movie. Like, because shortly after this scene at the dinner table, the very next day, mom goes to Joan to do the seance for the first time. And I feel like in at least like you could probably split the movie up right here, and like that ends this, and then it gets into the horror like right after. I mean, the horror is always there, but I feel like up until that point, it's more just deep family grief, family issues, and working through that. And then after
it goes more like supernatural, maybe.
Yeah, and it switches at this part. I feel like the whole movie switches into a different type of vibe. It goes from depressing and grief and to like fucking like, oh shit, what the fuck's happening? This shit's getting crazy.
I think it's like the first half is like a dramatic family horror and depicted in horror with horror scenes and visuals, and the second half is like a supernatural version of that where it's shown through horror visuals and things like that.
Yeah, dude, it's I think it's really it's also like the first time at least I saw it for me. I think the ending's so crazy that it almost becomes disorienting to the rest of the movie. Like it's almost like you almost forget about the dinner scene and everything because the second half has so much packed into it. But I don't know. But I think forever, though, the first half of this movie will be my favorite. I love the second half because of the craziness and it's the horror. But I think the first half is just incredibly well acted, incredibly amazing, like depiction of grief, like you said, and especially from her and from the son and even from the dad. It's like he's just stuck in the middle and he's sad too, but he can't even be sad because his son's devastated, his wife's devastated, so he has to try to be the middle person, but he's going through the same shit,
Yeah. Dude,
and plus more because he's trying to take care of them.
Have you ever seen 6 Feet Under?
Yeah, dude, I never saw the last 3 episodes. I know.
Of the show?
Yeah, I've seen everything up until the last 3, and then I fell off, and for some reason, I haven't watched the last 3. I've seen everything else, though.
The series finale of that show is literally top 3 of all time of any show ever.
I remember you telling me. I remember you said you cried.
I cried, openly cried, and laughed. I was laughing at this, but I was extremely drunk. I was bad. When I was really drunk. I used to be a drunk little motherfucker. Right? I was like 18 beers in and by myself in my room, drinking, crying, watching 6 Feet Under. But fucking it was wild. It was fucking wild. But you definitely need to watch it because, like, that it's because you mentioned depictions of grief. So just it just made me think about
that show was all about grief. Yeah. So after this, after our conclusion to, I feel like, a lot of the family drama, which, I mean, it's not the conclusion because it all comes to a head, but at least now it's out in the open. Mom has talked to son. They know where they stand with each other. Next day, Annie runs into Joan, who is endowed, at the art supply store. And Joan is actually excited, telling Annie about the seance that she did to reach her son, who her son had also died. And, Annie's skeptical, but Joanne's like, just come over, try it, and just come see me do it, So Annie goes over there, and Joanne tells her how to do it, that she can do it herself if she has a personal item from Charlie or whoever she's trying to contact. And then what?
Hold on real quick. So have you noticed that there's always like this, I feel like it's a popular thing in horror movies where like there has to be like this third party character who introduces the supernatural to the movie. It happens in Paranormal Activity. You know what I'm saying? When they invite the doctor over, it happens. I believe in The Exorcist when they invite the priest over or whatever. Is that a thing?
So very interesting you say that. Okay, so I don't know about as far as like bringing in the superstitious nature, but the third party was actually something that was talked about in the interview by Ari Aster about Joan, about how, and it wasn't about in the context of horror and supernatural. It was in the context of families. Because we see that the family obviously has a really hard time at communicating, that a lot of times families, instead of ever just really trying to communicate, their first step is let's bring in a third party. Let's go to counseling. Let's do this. Let's do that. We need a third party so we can even get this conversation going, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying like Joan is like that for them. She is the third party that comes in almost like a counselor to get the family back together, you know? But in this sense, it's not obviously for that, and it does bring the superstition. But I think that's interesting, like you said, and I think it probably could be a trope in both, that there is this third party in horror films that brings in this supernatural, and there's also this third party in drama films and in grief and tragedy where you need this other character to incite the conversation that needs to happen in the first place, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like
There's always
I think that is what Joan is in both senses. She's a catalyst for the family drama, and she's also a catalyst for all the supernatural shit that comes after. This is a very astute observation, Mikey. I only read that. That's the only reason I knew that. Like I didn't pick that up, you know, but that is true. Like, you know, yeah, because she, before her, like, there's always throughout the movie this sense of there's something being more, but she actually brings it full into light what's going on, you know?
Yeah.
And I know what you mean, though. Yeah, because she's almost like a what was it called? She is what, a medium?
Medium or whatever, yeah.
Yeah. So, so like Mike said, Joanne invites her to the house, or Joan, and then Annie sits in on Joan while she does a seance to bring her son back. The son moves the glass, and then the son also starts writing on the chalkboard, "I love you, Mom," and all this bullshit. And this freaks Annie out because Annie's like, what the fuck's going on? Scares her. But, you know, after it happens, you know, Joan tells her, you can do this at home if you really want to try, like, blah, blah, blah. So Annie, that night goes home, you know, because she's fucking freaked out. And then this night is another interesting night, and it's actually another scene that I really, really like in the movie. Is Annie wakes up this night after the seance, and she finds a swarm of ants, and she follows them to Peter's dead body, and Peter's laying there with ants all over his dead body. He looks gross. He looks dead, nasty. And then we find out that Annie is pretty much sleepwalking, and Annie's staring at him with the most disgusted, horrified face. And then Peter wakes up and is like, Mom, why are you looking at me like that? And dude, I feel like that scene is so scary, because like if you woke up and anybody, not even just your mom, like if Monica was standing at the bed, like looking at you like you were dead, like you'd be like, what the fuck? And then this leads into another conversation that I love, that I wrote a little bit down, when she says she says so Mom sees the ants on her face, and then she tells him, I don't know how they start talking about it, I don't know the exact dialogue, but then she says, I never wanted to be your mother, and then she covers her mouth real quick, and then he's like, well, why did you have me? And she said, I tried everything I could to stop it. And then she, like, I love that she keeps talking and saying things that she shouldn't, and then covering her mouth, like, oh my god, I shouldn't have said that. Like, it's almost like she has no, it's like, you know, like I said, it's like all predetermined, like she has no choice, you know, like it's like she just needs to say it. And then she like tells him how she did everything that she could to get rid of him, and it didn't work. And then after she kind of tries to backtrack and like, but I wanted you, you know, and I'm glad it didn't work, but like it's kind of like the damage is already done.
It's kind of like brutal honesty, but it's like it's hard to hear the first part. Yeah, like some fucking shit. Sometimes parents, you know, have kids they didn't want to, and sometimes they try to get rid of them, and sometimes it doesn't, and it doesn't work out. But then they end up having the kid, and they still love them. It doesn't change anything just because, you know, it's just kind of like one of those rough truths of humanity and life,
and probably something that she probably didn't have to say to him.
No, of course not. No. which is. But I think that she's forced to in that moment, because she's like, in obviously this crazy state, this like, you know, possessed fucking psychotic state. Like, I think why, what's forcing her to talk this way? Do you think? Is it just belief? Is it supernatural power?
So, well, I'm pretty sure she went in there because she was like sleepwalking, but also I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but earlier on she mentions how her mom had DID, which is like multiple personalities, you know? So I wonder if like maybe she doesn't have DID, because I don't think that's what it is. I think maybe grandma was being possessed by things, you know, as well. So I'm thinking that's what mom's going through, you know? I'm thinking grandma is possessing her, and maybe, I don't know what's causing her to say those things. I think that has to do with, like we were talking about earlier, the lack of communication that goes on within a family unit, and how sometimes things that can be talked about and worked out instead are left to sit and fester until they blow up in your fucking face, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, and I feel like that's what's happening there, you know? She's like, yeah, it's like she's just been keeping this all in, and now because of everything that happened with Charlie, she has even more resentment for him that it's just starts to almost spill out like she's throwing up, and she just has no control. It's just like she needs to tell him. Like, yeah. But dude, that face she gives him while he's asleep is just so like, man, I wish. Dude, she is scary, dude. Those faces are crazy.
Imagine my mom when she'd get mad.
Dude, wait till you see Midsommar, dude. The chick in that gives a crazy ass performance too. Like crazy faces as well. So the seance, they do the seance, blah blah blah. And then Annie has the dream. She ends up in there having a really painful conversation with Peter. And then the next day, she wakes up early, wakes up everybody, Dad and Peter, and is like, obviously, you can tell at this part, she's full neurotic, full just all over the place, up and down. She's wants to try this seance, and she's like pretty much begging mom, dad, and brother to take part of it. And dad doesn't want to do it, but I think Peter feels bad because of everything. So he's like, no, let's do it for mom, you know? So they start to do it, and they use Charlie's notebook as a medium to try to bring her back. And what happens is they light the candle goes out in like a big flame. And then that's what Peter says, which I actually thought was a really good description of it, which of something that you see in a lot of horror movies. But I like when Peter tells his mom the air is flexing, you know? Like I was like, dude, that's a perfect description of what it looks like too. Like the air is just like the spirit was there. And then so what happens is they do the seance, and then mom during the seance, because everybody gets kind of like freaked out. Mom, though, Annie becomes possessed, which is what I think you talked to me about earlier when she starts growling and she's like, and that shit is like fucking crazy. And then I love that too. Peter does it really well where he's like, Mom, what's happening? What's happening? Like, he's
and she's like, Mommy?
Scared.
Mommy? Yeah.
Yeah, and then Dad has to throw water on Mom before she comes back. But I feel like this happening is just the first time we see it happening. But I think, in my opinion, that's what's happening every time she's ended up in Peter's room. You know, she's become possessed and this is just the first time we see it happening from the beginning. You know, where she's actually getting in her. But I mean, I don't know. You know. So after she does this, she does the incantation that to bring Charlie back, who is actually Paimon. So Charlie seems to possess Annie, and then Steve snaps Annie out of the trance by dousing her with water. That day, Peter goes to school and sees the same light that Charlie sees in the beginning in her bedroom, but Peter sees the light in his classroom. And then he also notices, wait, hold on, check. Come on. And then Peter notices his reflection, which is also another good part where he's looking at his reflection and he looks scared, but then his reflection is smiling back at him.
Oh yeah.
In like a creepy ass way. Yeah. Yeah. I love when things do that too. I think that's like a cool effect, you know?
Yeah.
It's like a scary. Yeah. And then so Steve, and then after this happens, Steve gets mad at Annie because Peter's becoming convinced that a spirit has been threatening him. And then Annie goes down and actually breaks all her models because I think she's kind of losing it at this point too. And realizing what she did by taking part in all of this, you know, because I think it was always there because of Grandma, but her actually taking part in it really made it like, okay, now this is the end. And then Charlie's spirit starts drawing in the sketchbook that day later while it's on the bed. And all the sketches are of Peter's face and he looks dead, you know, and he has, I think, X's on his eyes. And then later that night also, man, there's a lot that happens right here. Later that night, Peter sees a vision of his dead sister. Oh, wait. This is when he sees where her
all of a sudden they're being super detailed in this synopsis. It's like kind of weird.
Yeah, I know. Dude,
all throughout it. Now all of a sudden,
yeah. Now it's all like super exactly, dude. And then, in this part though, this is your
favorite scene that's on my screen right now. I think.
Oh, really? Let me see. I can't even see.
I mean the dinner scene.
Oh yeah.
You
I
could,
love
like,
when she
look at their faces, bro. You could just see like the.
dude. I know,
It's
dude.
wild.
Like that's on.
She looks scary, dude.
Dude, she does. She's fucking perfect.
She reminds me of my mom, bro. That's scary. Oh my god, I love you, mom.
So, yeah. So this night also, Peter has the dream where his mom's trying to choke him, which I think is weird because
I think she really was. No.
Yeah, because the door is shut when you never see the door open and her come in to like tell him like, because that's what she's saying. She's like, Peter, what's wrong? But yeah,
and he's like, you were just choked or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the door's actually shut the whole time, so I don't think
okay.
so I think she was in there the whole time, you know? Yeah. And then yeah, so that was crazy. I think she was trying to choke him. And then so this is about Annie starts realizing too that the spirit is evil and trying to do something to them. And I think she realizes this because of she's just been realizing that I think she feels it,
Yeah.
And then she tries to burn the book the first time, and as she puts the book in and it starts to catch fire, her arm catches fire, which she quickly puts out and takes the book out because she realizes if she burns the book, she's gonna light on fire too. So then Annie goes back to Joan because she's like, okay, I need to go get help because I don't know what the fuck is going on. And so there's no one at Joan's apartment when she goes this time. But this time we actually see inside Joan's apartment and we see the Paimon symbol. We also see, which is what I wanted to talk about earlier. It's very brief on the table. We see the pigeon head doll that Charlie made in the beginning. It's on the table, and around it there's three like, I don't know what they are, other dolls, but they're bent over in front of it, like kneeling. And this is actually a direct scene of what happens at the end when the three headless are bowing to Paimon. Yeah, and that's what they're saying that Charlie is carrying around in her box too before she dies. That was in her box, was that scene, and that she had been making it, and then Joan has it now. And then also you notice it's something I want to talk about when we talk about the spirits and shit after. There's a triangle around Peter's face on the table, and a triangle is actually where it's where you would summon a demon. I actually looked into all this. Like, there's magic circles. We'll get into it at the end. But there's a lot of shit in this. That's what I mean. Like, there's a lot of shit that happens in that quick scene that you see in Joanne's place that tells you a lot about what's going on, after that, she obviously can't get in, but she looks at the rug and realizes that these were the rugs that the mom made, so she realizes there's a connection. So then she goes back and she finds a book that has the symbol of Paimon on it. And when she finds this book, this is where we finally get a little bit of information into what is coming after them, which is this demon Paimon. And then also, I believe we see in the book pictures of Ellen, the mom, and Joan together, and in a cult. There's also a picture of the grandma, like with her arms up, and like she's like gold coins are being dropped on her, which is actually why they're trying to summon Paimon. Paimon is supposed to be a god who brings you riches and secrets and shit, which I didn't know at first, but that's why they're like sprinkling gold on her, and like they were trying to get all the riches. That's why they want Paimon in the first place.
Isn't Paimon like have like a manly face and like a womanly body too?
So he has a womanly face, but he's a man. So that's why sometimes he gets confused, they said, but he wants a man's body because he is a man.
Propaganda?
So that's why he didn't want Charlie's body. Dude,
Trans propaganda?
I never even heard that until you said it. But then I was like, oh, shit, I could kind of see that,
It's kind of, when I first saw it, go ahead. We'll talk about that after. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, because we're about to be done with the synopsis, so I'm going to just blow through this, actually. So Annie learns that the symbol is associated with Demon Paimon, one of the 9 kings of hell. Annie also finds photos of Joan with Ellen, revealing that Joan and Annie's mother were in the same coven, devoted to gaining riches by conjuring Paimon into a male body. Annie later discovers that her mom's headless corpse has been in the house's attic for who knows how long, but probably a while, because I'm guessing I'm thinking the body was. There's actually a scene that I should have brought up that I've never heard it before, but I read about it and then I heard it after. When they get home from the funeral, the first day from the mom's funeral, when they first walk in the door, you hear footsteps upstairs. And I never noticed at first. It was very faint, but there are footsteps upstairs, and that's when they're saying that they probably dug up the corpse. I don't know if they dug up the corpse yet, but that they were probably up in that attic the whole time. You know, those people, they were living there already because you hear footsteps upstairs. So
all
there's
these naked people.
Yeah, I don't know if all of them, but there's definitely people because there's also, like I said, when we go through it, there's a lot of things that are carved into walls that are like for spells. So I think these people have been in the house, you know, while they were at the funeral doing this, which is something that you just don't really catch, which is why I really like the movie. I feel like if you like, it can be confusing, but if you go back and like you really look for it, like all the clues are actually there, you know, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I felt like for some reason there was like the whole movie was like an I Spy, and every fucking shot was like there was things hiding in the background. And
dude,
it's
that's
like,
a good way to look at it, actually.
Yeah. So there was times where I paused the movie and I was just like looked around, especially last night because I got fucking faded, dude. I had 4 tall can White Claws and 1 regular White Claw. So I had like fucking 9 beers last night. And I was fucking, yeah. But you know what I did take? I took these DMX, or not, DHM pills.
DMX?
They're like dihydroxim or some crazy shit, but they're anti-hangover pills. So you take 2 of them every drink you have. And so I took 8 of them last night. I woke up feeling pretty bomb. It was kind of wild. I got to get you some of them. They're pretty cheap. Anyway, sorry, right back. Go ahead.
No, that's cool. I never heard of that.
yeah, it works a lot, dude. It totally takes your hangover away. Totally. As long as you drink a little bit of water with them.
Yeah, they help
a lot.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So after this happens, we find out Joan is actually bad. Peter is at school and he's sitting I like this scene a lot too. He's sitting at the table and Joan is across the street. So he obviously can't hear her, but for some reason he can't hear any of the kids that are sitting around him at school, but he can hear her voice ringing, screaming, "I expel you." And she says, Satiny and where is it? Zatany, Dagdany, a paragon or something. It's like a conjuring spirit. Which people were confused because they were saying that she's not trying to conjure Paimon at that point. She's trying to expel Peter from the body. But it's also like they think she's trying to wear him down, you know, because if you look in the book when she does find the Paimon book, it says that before. You know what? I'm gonna just get into that, Ann. Let me just let me just get through this. So Peter hears Joan shouting, "I expel you" at him from a distance. During class, when Peter's in class, he hears Charlie's cluck, and then after that, Peter acts possessed. His arm shoots up, and when his arm shoots up and does that thing with his arm, if you look at the picture of Paimon, that's Paimon's holding a stick that is a hand that's pointing down like that, and so that's what he's doing, and then. After he bashes his head into the desk, which is actually, dude, super dope. I read something about Peter. He said that the desk did have a padding, but underneath it was all hard. And he said that he insisted, Ari Aster was saying that he insisted on doing the scene himself. And that he said he kind of like hurt himself when he was hitting his head on it, which is, I always think shit like that's cool. Cause I'm like, dude, that's dedication. At the end, they also said Peter wanted to jump out the window, but I guess his agents and the legalities, they wouldn't allow him to do it. So he had to get a stunt double. But I was like, that's dope. That made me respect him. I was like, hell yeah.
Great fucking actor, bro. His performance is up there with the bomb. You know, he did a fucking amazing job. Like his scenes were amazing.
When he slams his head in the desk and then
he starts screaming and crying.
That shit's crazy.
Bro, I've done that. I have screamed and cried like that. Thank God you've never seen it. But there's been multiple nights where I've been drunk as fuck and screamed like that to Monica over probably some bullshit. But fucking like total fear and screaming type. God damn. Yeah. So
it, bro.
Like I've fucking been there. I could see that was real shit. Like, you know.
Yeah. No, dude, it was so good. It's like the emotions are super real.
Yeah.
So Next, it's already been getting crazy. So next, Steve brings Peter home. His dad brings him home from school because obviously he fucked himself up in school. Peter gets home, goes to sleep. So he's asleep for everything that's about to happen. So Annie tells Steve at this point while Peter's sleeping, she tells her husband that she's found her mom's corpse in the attic. And of course, the husband's first reaction is like, this bitch is fucking losing it. What the fuck is her problem? But Steve actually goes upstairs and finds the body, and his first reaction is Annie did it. And I think that's a big question that a lot of people had when this movie came out. Was Annie the one who went to dig up her mom's body? I don't think she was. I think it was the cult. But Steve does think it's Annie, and then Annie tries to explain to him like, hey, I just want this to stop. Can you destroy this book for me? Because when I throw it in, I catch on fire and I just can't do it. Like, I need you to do it. And I think in Annie's mind, she thinks I'm going to die right now, because right before she tells Steve, like, I love you. You know, I've always loved you and Peter, like, because she thinks he's going to burn the book. She's going to burn because she douses it in, I think, paint thinner. And then he refuses to play that game with her, though. He's kind of done with her. He's like, fuck this. You're crazy.
You're a crazy bitch. I'm out.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. And then so she's like, well, fuck it, I'll just do it. And she throws the book in, and instead of her catching on fire, this is another crazy scene. Steve fucking goes completely in flames. I never figured out why either, you know? I couldn't I don't know, you know? I don't know exactly why.
She threw it in, maybe?
But she threw it in the first time, remember? And she started to catch flames. I don't know, dude. I have no idea. I couldn't figure out why it would make him catch on fire either. I don't know. I didn't read anything about that either. Yeah, I don't know. Because that's what I thought first, too. Like, I was thinking he threw it in from my memory, but then I watched it. I was like, oh, no, she threw it in both times. So, like, she should have caught on fire. But I don't know, dude. Maybe, I don't know.
So why was she catching on fire in the first place when she would try to destroy it? What was the symbolism of that?
I think it was that she was connected to the book because she brought this. She was the one who conjured the actual spirit. So if she was going to destroy what the spirit was attached to, it was going to take her with her. So that's yeah, but I still don't understand why the dad though was, you know, gonna die.
I remember hearing somebody say, I watched a couple YouTube videos last night of people talking about it and trying to explain how the ending was and stuff like that. But honestly, I was so fucking drunk I barely remember. But yeah, I remember them saying there was some sort of a reason as to, like, I think it was like, I don't know, like kind of just like the demon's anger and wanting to like destroy the family and just like taking it as something about just wanting to take him out or something like that, or I don't know.
Well, you know, it could be too because I think I was gonna say it earlier, but in Paimon's book it says that for Paimon to take control of the host, that the host has to be vulnerable. So I know that a lot of the things that happen at the end, that's why they're trying to wear Peter's spirit down so he's open for Paimon to jump into him. You know, I think they are really actually trying to get him to kill himself. You know, that's why when he jumps out the window, Paimon finally takes over, and I think that's why they're doing. Because, you know, like, even though like Peter hurts himself, like mom and dad never actually hurt him. You know, like even like mom never touches him. Like she chases him and scares him, and she scares him at the end with the knives, but she never actually goes to hurt him. Like, we think she wants to hurt him, but the more I watch it, the more I think it's just supposed to be this big ending act that's supposed to drive Peter over the edge. You know, I don't think mom was ever going to attack him if she got to him. I think it was just she was going to drive him crazy, you know? Because, like, if you see your mom in that state, like,
that's probably why. And that's why eventually the demon allows her to kill herself, right? And does it in such a crazy graphic way in front of him.
I think so.
And that breaks him. And then his dad's dead. And then he gets to the scene where he's just totally broken, and then the demon enters him. I'm sorry, I don't know. I probably wrapped it up on accident, but.
No, that's pretty much. So that's a good one. That's pretty much what happens. Dad catches on fire. Mom's possessed. We see mom in the corners, which is scary as fuck. When Peter first wakes up from his nap, and you don't even notice at first that she's just sitting up there. It's so
bro. This is one of those, you know, in scary movies, like the real good ones in the theaters, you'd be like, it's like that. That's what I was doing. I was just freaking the fuck out, like, just like it's all quiet, but you can't help but scream like you're on a roller coaster. That's how it felt for me. I was like the whole time just, It was funny. It was so much fun. It was so much fun watching this, dude. So even last night too, I was all by myself with my headphones on in the dark watching it. So that was cool.
It's a crazy movie, dude. And then sure. So all this happens, and then Peter finds his dad dead, and then he runs from his mom who's chasing him into the attic, and then he finds when he's in the attic, he obviously, I think the grandma's still up there. And then, no, the grandma's not there anymore. But he goes up in the attic, and he knows something's on. Mom's banging her head on the fucking the roof. Yeah, and then mom gets in, and then mom kills herself by stabbing herself repeatedly in the neck. And then this, I think, drives Peter over the edge. Peter jumps out the window, dies.
Oh my God.
Paimon gets into Peter's body. Peter wakes up, and you can tell it's not Peter anymore. It's Paimon. He starts doing the clicking like Charlie used to do, and then he walks. Then
that's a symbol. That's symbolizing Charlie being inside of him now, right?
Yeah, and then he sees his mom's body float up headless into the treehouse, and then he follows. And then as he's in the treehouse, the cult is all there, and they're doing Hail Paimon because now he is Paimon, and he's been brought back. So yeah, and that's how the movie ends. Yeah, the ending's fucking crazy.
Yeah, that shit's fucking. That sound and that visual. That might be one of the most evil visuals I've ever seen in a movie. When the mom is floating and like sawing her fucking shit off, and the sound of it, and the look of her face, and then the fact he dies and you can still hear it going. It's wild.
Dude, watch. Check this out. I should have wore this. Wait, hold up.
Oh my God. If Corey ends up chopping his head off live on this podcast, guys, we're not going to be able to continue with it. This is I thought it was going to be an enjoyable podcast. I thought we were going to have years and years. Oh my God, look at that. Ow! Yeah, we're getting a free show too, baby. Getting a show. What is this? Okay, Corey has changed his shirt. For people listening.
See it,
what is it? Is this Hereditary? Oh yeah, shit!
That's the dad on fire and her like screaming.
Damn.
Yeah, dude. I got it like last year for my birthday, but this shit is dope as fuck, dude. They have another one with the head floating up into the house too. I want
That's
that.
Dope.
One.
That's dope.
Yeah,
you should get
the whole time.
The poster is really dope too. I kind of like it. I wouldn't mind having the poster up. Like I kind of like eventually would really like to have a lot of movie posters and stuff like that.
Yeah, dude, it's a fucking good movie, dude.
It is classic fucking movie for sure.
So now that we finished, if you're down, I'm gonna go through some shit.
Yeah.
Okay. So
hold on. Before you get into, okay, maybe this might be a talking point. It might be one of your Easter eggs, but I've been wanting to bring it up, but I wanted to wait till the synopsis, right? It's just a little thing that I'm really curious if it's something you know or if you can hear. Okay, so and it tripped me out even in that short film. It was still in that. So there's a thing that was in Hereditary, that was in that short film, where it's like this sound that goes throughout the film, or in certain parts where it's like a literal sound, like it's like a bass rhythm, and it's like like that. Really, I don't know. That's probably weird sounding, and it does it in a lot of different parts. It did it in the sound in Hereditary and in that other film, which what was it called again? That first one?
There's something strange about the Johnsons.
Yeah, it was in that too, and it sounds very, very similar to what's in Dark Side of the Moon in the big in that it goes I forget that it sounds very similar to that.
So there's something strange about the Johnsons. I don't know much about the music, but for Hereditary, though, you are right. The dude who did the music, his name is Colin Stetson, and they actually, when the movie came out, I remember reading a lot about it. They talked about that. That's actually why the movie 2 feels the way it does, because actually from the very opening scene in the funeral, that sound and like there's a constant. If you really listen, it's kind of quiet. There's a constant sound. Portrayed. Yeah. It's, they called it. Ari Aster referred to it as the contrapulse because it was. It's mostly the dude who did it, Colin Stetson, said actually, like, people would be surprised. He said that most of the sound through the movie is his voice mixed and a contrabass clarinet, pretty much. And then he said he uses a sax too, but it's pretty much just clarinet and then his voice being distorted that makes all those sounds in the background of the movie.
What's it called? Contrabass?
Contrabass clarinet, yeah.
Cron-
But what's his name referred it to as the contrapulse because he said that the whole movie it gives it like a pulse where it's
Yeah.
like constantly breathing. Yeah. So even when it's like calm, you still feel that sense of like dread and terror.
Wow. Yeah, exactly, dude. That's so fucking crazy, dude. It's exactly what it was, and I noticed it in the short film too. So and it got loud and it got quiet during it, but it was the same thing throughout the entire short film.
Ari,
Has to
yeah,
be
he
him.
gave an interview. He said, yeah, but he said he did that on purpose. Like, that was definitely purposeful.
Damn, it's in Dark Side of the Moon too. That same kind of concept, that same pulsating thing. I don't know if it's in the whole album, but it's in that one. It's in the beginning. It's when Dorothy falls in. Yeah. Now Dark Side of the Moon is totally connected to Wizard of Oz for me, for some reason.
Yeah, I know it is.
My bad. So, that's cool. I'm glad I was right, or there's something there.
No, yeah, there is, dude. The music, because if you do notice, like even in the funeral, like from the very beginning, even before anything scary happens, it feels like, eerie and off. And it's because of the music. Like if you watch it knowing now, you'll notice, especially if it's blasting, you'll be like, oh shit, like you can just feel it in the music. Because that's what he said. He said he wanted the music to just feel evil, but to always be there, and it keeps it going. It gives it like momentum in a weird way.
Yep.
So for like little Easter egg things, there's a lot of these things you've probably noticed. There was the guy in the very beginning of the funeral who smiles at Charlie. Did you notice that in the very beginning when Charlie's looking at her grandma in at the open casket, there's a guy behind her who has a crazy ass smile on.
Faintly, barely, kind of.
Yeah, he's watching Charlie. He's also the same guy at the end when Peter wakes up. You see the naked guy in the corner smiling. That's the same guy from the beginning.
That's so creepy.
Yeah, so the lady does, I don't know exactly what it is, but there's the lady who rubs an ointment on the grandma's lips, which is obviously some sort of herb, which I don't know exactly what it is, but I just thought I'd bring it up. There's a lot of things that Annie says. I brought up one about how she brings up how her brother was a schizophrenic and how mom tried to put people into him, which obviously was actually happening. She also, in the very beginning at the funeral, says one of the first things she says is, my mother was a very private person. She had private rituals, private this. But, the private rituals alone right there already tells you, a lot. Mom is also wearing the Paimon necklace, just like grandma is. So that's another thing. The Paimon thing ends up everywhere. Mom also talks about how grandma breastfed Charlie, which we talked about. I'm just going through everything.
Yeah, it's also something that we should probably have noted too is that how the whole family really doesn't. There almost seem to be like a weight's lifted off of their shoulders because the grandma dies. Like everybody's kind of happy about it. Like she must have been a real evil bitch,
Yeah, because mom even talks about at the grief meeting that Steve, the husband, actually got a restraining order on the mom when Peter was born because the mom was just so crazy, and then eventually they got it lifted when Charlie came around. But yeah, the dad, they all.
She says that. She said that she never let the grandma she never let the grandma see the son, and then she felt bad, so she she overdid it with the daughter and let her see her too much, and she got in her head.
Yeah, and what she actually says too is that the grandma really wanted Peter, and that she refused to let Peter anywhere near her. But she felt bad, so when Charlie came, she said, "I gave Charlie to her," and then she attached her hooks into her immediately. So I think that's a weird way too. Which I know it's done on purpose. It's a weird way to say that you let the grandma spend a lot of time with the daughter by saying, "I gave my daughter to her," So
I think that this concept of how, what you were talking about is like how you have to break down the spirit to allow Paimon to enter, right? And like how she did that with the son, her actual son, the mom's brother, and he ended up not being able to handle it and killed himself, right? Hung himself. So in that then she wanted the Peter, do you think the mom knew or knows about these rituals, and that is she in the dark of it about it?
I think so. I think mom knows more than we're led to believe she knows, but I don't think she knows the extent, but I think mom knows. But also mom though does refer to her mom as having DID, so maybe mom really did think that her mom was just losing her shit, because she said the dementia was extreme at the end, know? So maybe she didn't, but I think she had to have some, I guess, idea of it, but she also said that the grandma wasn't around a lot, she did kind of her own thing, was treated them badly and was probably a lot more interested. Like, if you think about it, she probably wasn't ever interested in an Annie because she wanted to put the demon in the son, and she probably didn't grow interested in Annie until Annie became pregnant. That was probably the first time she ever really even paid attention to Annie. So, which is interesting, to think about.
Sure.
Annie, like, she kind of doesn't, I wouldn't say she doesn't pay attention to Peter, but it almost feels like that from the beginning, that she loves Charlie but not Peter.
She seems like she's being used by the grandma, by the demon or whatever. She's being used to get to Peter, the same way Charlie's being used to get to Peter, in a sense, or Peter's being used to get to Charlie, whichever the sense is, whatever it is.
Yeah, and I think it's up for debate, like how much she actually knows about what's going on, and I don't know. I don't think there's any real direct answer there. There's other things, though. I think I brought up earlier in Joan's house, where she has the triangle around Peter's face, where they're trying to when we just see an inside shot of her apartment, that's where they're trying to conjure a spirit. The triangle is actually a thing you do. It's also seen in the beginning when Annie goes into the room that her mom was living in. You see a triangle on the floor. I don't know if you remember that. There's a triangle on the floor, though. And that's the same thing. So pretty much, I actually looked this up. So pretty much what you do is, it's from this book called The Lesser Key of Solomon that was written in the 17th century. It's like a demonology. They're also called grimoires. This one's a demonology because it goes through all the demons. This is like where Paimon's from and all this. But it's also like a grimoire. I think that's how you say it, which is like a magic book. And so pretty much what you do is you draw a magic circle around yourself, and this is to keep the demon from actually touching you. And then you set a triangle just outside of the circle, and then you wear the sigil of the demon. So I'd wear Paimon's symbol, and then I'd also put Paimon's symbol in the triangle, and I would stand in the circle, and then you would use the words in the book, which are apparently really hard to say and actually speak right. But then you do that, and then you're supposed to conjure up. And what's supposed to happen is that the demon is supposed to appear in the triangle, but can't leave the triangle. So you see its spirit, and I guess people really try to do that. That's how you would do it, though. That's why the triangles are in there, because that's what houses the demon in it, so it doesn't escape.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I mean, if you ever want to try it, bro, let's do it.
I think I saw Sam and Dean do that one time. You know who they are? From Supernatural?
Yeah. That's funny.
I for real think they did shit like that, or they would summon demons and keep them in a circle or a triangle and shit like that.
Yeah, no, probably because it's like a common actual like folklore, shit, or not folklore, but things. But yeah, so this sigil. Speaking of the sigil, we see it. We see it on the pole where she gets her head knocked off. We see it on Mom. We see it on Grandma. We see it on the Book of Paimon. We see it in Joan's house. I believe it's in the family's house too. And even if it wasn't, it's on the necklaces, so it technically is. Another interesting thing to notice is in the very beginning, when they get mail in the very beginning, it's like a little bit after they get back from the funeral. There, you see the mail going through the slot, and on top there's a seance flyer that's being slid into it on top. But they don't really focus on it. But it's to perform a seance. And it's obviously just discarded and thrown away. But that was like their first attempt to try to get Anne involved in the seances. And then later Joan shows up to the meetings because that doesn't work. Let's see. So then I told you about the doll in Joan's house, where it's the doll that Charlie made with the pigeon head, and this symbolizes Peter at the end, who turns into Paimon. And there's also, if you really look, there's the 3 dolls that don't have heads that are kneeling in front of him, which is the exact scene at the end. Let's see. And
at the end of the in the last scene when he's becoming Paimon, the 2 headless women are the mom and the grandma, right?
Yeah, and if you notice, all the women are headless. The mom, the grandma, and Charlie all have their heads off.
Yeah, is Charlie there too?
Charlie's not there, no. But she knocked her head off, and then the pigeon's head. There's a lot of shit with decapitation. Which, if you notice, the picture in the Book of Paimon, the picture of him where he has the staff, he has like 3 heads hanging on his side, which is I'm thinking that's why the decapitation is in it.
And do you think that decapitation could symbolize chopping the man's head off of the woman's body because it's a transgender propaganda film?
No, I didn't get that. I felt like you were like that was like a hard hitting question.
No, yeah, no, I had to shadow it with humor because it sounds wild. But I mean, I don't think obviously it's a real transgender propaganda film, but I think there might have been some sort of like ties into it, and maybe this is a good time to bring it up, I guess, because did you read anything of what people thought about it and like how
About
people thought about that, about the transgender aspect of it, and just the gender issues and stuff like that?
No, I didn't read about it, but after like you said it, I could totally see I could see that.
Yeah, there's some people who take it very far, and they're like, this is almost like seeing the opposite. It's almost like like fear of transgender or gender confusion or something like that. Like kind of like depicting it in a horrific way, almost like homophobic. I don't know if it'd be homo or just prejudice.
Yeah.
But there's people who think the opposite, and it's just like an empowerment idea. And I think that just because there's ideas of gender that come into play with the girl and her becoming the boy, and the grandma saying certain things about she wishes she was a boy and things like that. Yeah. I think that there's just because there's aspects of it in a movie, and it's such like a hard hitting subject for some people. People just tend to like look too deep into all that, but I think it's just a gender type of an issue, type of a subject in a much bigger topic.
Yeah, and I also the reason too I wouldn't like exactly like go beyond that theory is because there is actually, like I said, there's a book from the 17th century, and like there is actually a lot about Paimon that does stress that he wants a male body. So it is like something that's actually based in actual belief, so it's not like he just made that part in. It is something that they've talked about, that sometimes he has a woman's face, but so people get confused, but he actually wants a man's body. And this isn't something that Ari Aster came up with. This is something that already existed. So that's the only reason I could see how it could also not be that at all, just because he was just going by the folklore that he was given,
True. That makes sense. That makes sense too. I think people just kind of took certain things and ideas and rolled with it. It's funny though that's the first way I thought. That's the first thing I thought. It's not. I didn't necessarily think that they're trying to make a point. I kind of thought that maybe there was, because before I finished the movie, once I finished it, I was like, okay, that wasn't really about that. But it kind of like had little. Maybe it did have little notions, but. Either way, I'm super glad that Ari Aster did this film and took this idea and this concept and did it, because I feel like another director could have done that and tried to make it a trans issue film and ruin the story. Not that they don't deserve it, their word or whatever, but I mean, or not that it's not an issue, but the film, it shouldn't be about that. I
feel you. And then, that is an interesting take though, it is definitely. What's it called? A couple more little things is there is a part where the paint spills, and if you notice right before the paint spills, it's while she's working on a diorama, she actually doesn't knock the paint over. Like right before, there's a little light, and that knocks the paint over, which is weird because I never noticed it until I actually read that up, and then I had to go back and look at it, and I was like, oh shit, like I didn't even notice that she doesn't knock it down, because it seems like she does, but then you see it's like, no, there's a little light right before it knocks down that obviously is Paimon or whatever that light is supposed to symbolize.
There was something about that scene too that I wanted to remember to bring up. I think it might have probably just been that. Yeah, I remember she knocked over the paint, and it was like a weird.
Yeah.
Like, did it take her away or distract her for something? I forget. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think so. That's all I really remember about it. So there's also the words that appear in the house. There's a word that's satony, Satony, and it's I guess it's like a word of power that people use to command the dead back to the spirit world. There's also Zazas is written in the house, which is a term by Aleister Crowley that was used to summon a demon. And then there's also Liftoch Pandemonium, which is the most interesting. So Pandemonium, I never knew this is what it meant. So Pandemonium comes from this book, Paradise Lost, about the devil and his fall from grace. And it's interesting because pan equals all, and then the middle word is demon, and then the IUM makes it a noun. So the pandemonium, so that's actually where pandemonium comes from. It means like the place of the demons, like
Oh
like
my
the house.
god.
Yeah,
That's a
dude,
cool
which is
word.
interesting. And then Liftoch is written right before it, and I guess that's a Hebrew saying that means to open or unlock. So it says Liftoch Pandemonium, so like opening the house for the demons, you know,
Jesus
which is
Christ.
interesting. Yeah, dude, it's crazy, you know. And then I told you about the picture of Paimon with the severed heads.
Yeah.
Let's see, the vulnerable host we talked about. Oh, in the beginning of the movie, also when Peter smokes weed, this is actually something I want to talk about. That these cult people are everywhere. In the very beginning, before the party scene, either he's smoking weed in his window, and the shot is actually from outside his window, and if you pay attention, you see somebody breathing. Because it's
I
cold
saw
outside,
that.
you see the
I
breath.
saw that.
Yeah,
Yes, I
yeah.
saw that. Fuck, I wish I
So
would have
that-
put that down.
Dude, yeah, and then also the final night, when it switches from day to night after the dad burns up, and there's a shot of outside the house, and it shows it day, and then it flashes to night. If you pause it when it flashes to night, because it's only a second, at nighttime you see there's naked people all surrounding the house. I never noticed it until I looked it up because it's so quick. But if you pause the movie, as soon as it turns night, you see that it goes from daytime, nobody, and then nighttime, and there's a bunch of naked people standing because they know it's going to happen tonight, you know? It's
Oh
pretty
my
crazy.
God. Why is everyone
then
naked?
Yeah, dude. I guess I was reading that I guess it makes you more susceptible to like the spirit world because you don't have like clothes or anything holding you down and shit.
You sound like you look like a fucking perfect cult leader saying with that hair, you sound like you look
Hey,
like
bro,
you're ready to
I'm
tell
gonna get-
me. You just tell me what to do.
I should have done this podcast naked, bro. But no, there's only a couple more things. There's the people throughout. There's a lot of scenes like that where there's people in there.
Really?
And then there's also at the very end, because I never understood this until I watched it the last time, is that when Annie's banging her head on the attic door and Peter's locked up in the attic, after Annie ends up in the attic, but it's like, how did she end up there? But if you notice when Peter's in the attic and he's like, Mom, stop. If you look in the very background, there's a naked lady that's standing there. And I never noticed her. It's so quiet. So people are saying she's the one who opened and let Annie in, you know, because then after she's stabbing herself. Because I always wondered, how did she get in? The thing was locked. But then I noticed, I was like, oh shit, there's somebody in there with Peter. You just don't see her. You know, like you could just barely see her. It's so cool. I like how he does that with the lighting. Like there are things that are happening that it's like you just got to pay attention, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And there's also one more thing that I noticed, and then I actually looked it up, and it was a thing that other people noticed, is in the beginning when Peter's in class, before everything starts happening, his teacher is talking about the women of Trachis, which is a story about Heracles, who's Hercules. I read it before. It's a pretty crazy story, but it's pretty much about fate and how Hercules is supposed to die this horrible death, and he knows it, and it still ends up coming to fruition. It still happens. It actually is pretty brutal. His wife actually kills him by accident with this magic, and then Hercules is actually pissed off that he's dying, and he finds out his wife did it, even though it was accident. So Hercules kills the wife right before he leaves, but like brutally kills her, and then he dies. But anyways, in the movie, they're talking. The teacher's asking, is it more tragic if they don't have a choice, or if he had a choice? And then one of the students says, they're all pawns in this horrible, hopeless machine. It's more tragic if they never had a choice. Which and then that ties in with this whole thing, you know, which I've been saying. Like the family, from the minute the grandma died, this family was set up for this shit to happen, you know? And I feel like that kind of says a lot about it too. That's why this movie's tragic too. Like there was never a chance for this family, you know? From the get-go, they were doomed, you know? And I think that's pretty interesting. I think that's pretty.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's just like a damn. I honestly, I'm learning so much, and it makes me want to rewatch the movie again. Like I've been like so like for this episode, like we talked about, like obviously like you carried this one, you had all the info, but I definitely want to rewatch and like hear more about it. Like there should be a whole fucking class on this movie.
No, dude, yeah. So what it just before, I guess, I don't think there was anything else big I wanted to bring up about the movie in particular. I think we covered most of it, right? But
I think so.
what did you think about There's Something About the Johnsons? You gotta know.
So you explain what that is, and like to people who may not know. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I think it's actually kind of funny too. I should say it. So there's a movie called There's Something About the Johnsons. It's Ari Aster's short film. Before
his
Hereditary,
first one, right? His first one, I think.
I think so, yeah. And so it's about this family. the Johnsons, and the dad. I'll just go into it. The dad walks in on the son masturbating in the beginning and tries to talk to him, be cool about it, like, oh, it's normal, blah, blah.
We should probably say we're going to talk about the spoilers, but if you guys want to watch it, it's only 30 minutes long. You can YouTube it. True. So if you want to watch it without, it'd probably be better if you don't know anything about it. Just watch it from the beginning. But
should I not go into it then?
My bad. No, yeah, you should. I just want to, in case people want to see it without spoilers, look it up on YouTube. It's free, and it's called what again? What is it called again?
There's Something Strange About the Johnsons.
Yeah, okay, but because we're gonna talk about it, so yeah. But go ahead.
So dad walks in, son masturbating, tries to make him feel comfortable. Right after we see that the son was masturbating to a picture of the dad, and then 14 years later pass, and obviously we don't see it, but we obviously know there's been a relationship going on. And then 14 years pass, we're at the son's wedding. He's getting married. And after the wedding, where they're at the reception, the mom stumbles upon the dad about the son about to perform fellatio on the dad. And then
the dad's crying, basically.
Yeah, the dad's crying. So it's obviously at this point that the dad has tried to stop it, and the son wants to keep it going. And then as we get more in the story, we find out that's very true. I think the dad started it, but I think he wanted to stop it, and the son fell in love with him. And the son, even at one point, the dad writes a story to confess all his sins and leaves it for his wife. Yes. And then the wife doesn't find it. The son finds it, and the son shows up while the dad's in the bathtub. And we don't see what happens, but I'm pretty sure he rapes him pretty brutally in the bathtub. You just hear it screaming, which is terrible. It's a terrible scene. And then later, though...
I'm sorry,
No, I know. It's crazy.
I can't.
And then the dad tries to leave at the end, finally tries to run away from the son, and he takes off to leave, and he gets hit by a car, and then the son's distraught. And then that scene was ridiculous. When the mom comes out, and the son's like, don't fucking touch him. And I was like, no, dude.
He's so gay, too, that you could just tell in these moments, like, oh, this guy is like super gay, like super flamboyantly gay.
Dude, it was
great acting. Like,
it was. And then in the end of the movie, pretty much after the dad's funeral, the mom finally confronts the son about it. And then the son fucking is crazy. And he's like, I loved him better than you ever could. And then they get into it. And then for a second, I thought the son was going to burn the mom's head. I was like, no fucking way.
That's what it looked like he was going to do.
But then the mom ends up killing him, which is, I found a little justification that I was like, okay, cool. I'm glad she killed him and not the other way around. The interesting
she
thing
violently kills him too. Like,
good, he deserved it.
It was wild. It was fucking wild to see. Like, okay, so,
and this movie again is about family trauma and secrets and how I think they can destroy a family. But this is weird.
What are the possibilities and percentages that this has happened before, or something like this has happened? Has it ever happened once before?
Honestly, bro, I was thinking that too when I watched it. I was like, has this ever happened where someone's fallen in love with their parent? Like, like you've heard the thing where people say like, oh, you end up marrying your mom or something. Yeah. But there are actual stories where people have fallen in love with their parent.
No, specifically, has there ever been a story of a higher class American black young man falling in love with his father and them having a sexual relationship for over a decade? Okay, has that ever happened?
I don't think it's ever been written either.
I don't think that's ever happened.
Bro, Ari Aster, though, it's kind of funny, though, that he gave an interview about this movie, and he said that people were mad because he said the only reason the family was black was because he's like, my friend was black, and he was going to be the actor, so he's like, so the whole family had to be. And he said that people were pissed though at first because they're like, oh, this little white Jewish guy is writing incest story about a black family, and he's like, people were really upset, and he's like, it had nothing to do with race at all. He's like, that's why after he's like, with my other films, he's like, I try to use, he's like, I use a white family. He's like, because it has nothing to do with the race at all. And if you watch the movie, I feel like the only way to make it about race is if you were trying to, because it's obviously not about that at all.
Do you think that? So do you think
would have
that?
been fucking disgusting no matter who the fuck was in this?
But do you think that there's statistically more likely that a family or something, a family that this would happen to, that do you think there's a higher statistic possibility that they would be a white family than a black family?
Dude, that's what I said. I was like,
just statistically.
One of the most shocking things I think for the movie is that it's not a white family. When you hear that story, what do you think? A white family? You know?
Yeah. Is incest more popular in white families, do you think?
I think so. I would say so, but I don't know but I would say so.
Yeah, I would think so. Either way, fucking gross.
Yeah,
don't watch this shit.
Honestly, though, for the concept of the movie, I feel like it's well done. You know,
it's definitely well done. The acting is done. It's not too bad, but it made me sick. It made me sick.
Dude, I watched it by myself, and the whole time I was like, when she was like walking back and like seeing them in the backyard, I was like, no.
Yeah,
like, fuck, dude,
I was just like, there's like reaction videos to this fucking film on YouTube. It's fucking crazy.
It's crazy, dude.
But
yeah, man. If you don't have anything else to say, I'm good.
Yeah, man. I really enjoyed the movie. I'm excited. I'm really excited that. Do you think that we should just get into Midsommar right after this, and then do the Exorcist after that? That way, we like do the Exorcist closer to Halloween, and we kind of keep this storyline, this podcast going, and talking about Ari Aster, and maybe we'll watch another short film of his.
Yeah, we could watch Munchausen. Yeah.
What is it called?
Munchausen.
All right, everybody. Munchausen.
Yeah, Munchausen and Midsommar. I'm down.
Yeah,
let's do it. Right. Actually, that's perfect. The opening scene in Munchausen, you'll see it, but it's very similar to the opening credit sequence in Midsommar. So actually, there's a tie right there. Yeah.
So maybe, yeah, for sure. Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
I mean, the movies aren't similar at all.
Yeah.
But the very opening title sequence, the artwork of it is very similar to Midsommar.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well, for sure, man. Yeah. Everybody subscribe, fucking listen to the podcast, like it, thumbs up.
All that good shit.
Yep. Man, yeah, it's been a good one.
Yep. Appreciate you guys.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. We're going to be here. We have 2 more episodes. We're going to, like we said, next week, we're going to do in our next episode, Midsommar. And then after that, we're going to do The Exorcist. And then after that, we're going to be doing a book called Immortality. The immortality key, right? Or something. Immortality key. We'll give you guys more information on it soon. I just bought my copy today, but we're gonna get into that like early November. But we're gonna stay spooky for October. Appreciate you guys. Have a good one. Peace.
GG's.
GG's.